A pleasant Saturday to you, our viewers, and welcome to another edition of the Tribune's Top 5, where we'll do a recap of all of the stories that created quite the buzz around town. Kicking off this week's Top 5 is a story coming from the trade union scene after a rift became evident between the Trade Union Congress and the Bahamas Public Services Union after its leader said he would not support an imminent general strike.
Bahamas Public Services Union President John Pinder said on Tuesday that his union would not take part in a general strike planned by the Trade Union Congress because he could not support, quote, a handful of greedy people, end quote, who think they should have more money than other civil servants. Mr. Pinder said he was more focused on getting the government to delay or abandon value-added tax implementation than attempting to shut down the country. The comments came after Trade Union Congress President Obie Ferguson said last week that he was rallying the troops for a general strike in response to accusations of the alleged mistreatment of the government workers. This follows the BPSU's agreement with the government to increase the minimum wage by $800 for public servants. Eat your heart out, says Prime Minister Perry Christie. Those were the words that fueled further criticisms of the Christie administration and landed the number 4 pick as the Prime Minister expressed strong confidence that the unemployment rate will fall to less than 10% in 2 to 3 years. Mr. Christie said that despite the naysayers, he was optimistic that unemployment would continue trending downward in direct response to increased direct foreign investment. He said, quote, "We are going to have the most wonderful experience in the next 2 to 3 years, and unemployment will continue to go down over the next 18 months. It will continue to drop to around 10% or less," end quote. The latest labor force statistics survey released recently says the unemployment in the Bahamas fell from 15.4% to 14.3% from November 2013 to May 2014.
Public scrutiny of the government this week intensified after it was revealed that Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Works, Renward Wells, signed a letter of intent for a $650 million waste-to-energy deal.
Ministry of Works Parliamentary Secretary Renward Wells found himself in a bit of hot water this week after news went viral on social media and in public on the revelation that he signed a letter of intent with Stella Waste Management for a $650 million waste-to-energy deal. While government officials remain tight-lipped on the issue, with Deputy Prime Minister Philip Brave Davis saying he would have to speak with Mr. Wells to glean more about the situation, amid rumors that the Prime Minister asked Mr. Wells to resign, the opposition did not let up off of its demand. On one end, FNM Chairman Darren Cash said Mr. Wells should resign immediately, and on the other, the party leader Dr. Hubert Minnis demanded transparency from the government about the landfill matter. But all that inquiring minds got from the government in the end was Prime Minister Perry Christie's assurance that whenever the government was ready to speak to it, they would. Mr. Christie said, "We will speak to it. As Prime Minister, I will speak to it. I'm sure the Deputy Prime Minister, who has the ministry in which Renward works, will speak to it. And Mr. Wells himself will speak to it," end quote. Our number 2 pick this week came with quite the surprise as Prime Minister Perry Christie stood up in the House of Assembly on Wednesday and announced the tabling of 4 bills to amend the Bahamas' constitution. The bills were created with a view to end gender discrimination that has been enshrined in the document for the last 41 years. The bills will enable the government to hold a referendum to alter the Constitution, and Prime Minister Perry Christie said a referendum for Bahamians to vote on the changes is slated for November 6th. Mr. Christie said, quote, "These 4 bills representing the first round of constitutional reform are bound together by a common thread, the need to institute full equality between men and women in matters of citizenship and more broadly to eliminate discrimination in the Bahamas based on sex," end quote. Opposition leader Dr. Hubert Minnis called on all Bahamians to take a bold effort to see the Constitution reformed to incorporate equality for all, and he stressed that the results of the vote will be binding.
And rounding out this week's Top 5 is value-added tax and the disappointment of many that electricity bills will not be VAT exempt.
The Christie administration tabled the anticipated value-added tax bill in the House of Assembly while releasing a list of proposed changes to tariff and excise duty rates and disclosing a pared-down list of VAT-exempt services that does not include electricity. Beginning January 1st, 2015, proposed decreases in duty rates for numerous items will come into effect. Items like watches, suitcases, and articles of jewelry will be duty-free, while various items ranging from food to clothing items would see duty reductions ranging from 5 to 15%. The government will introduce VAT at a rate of 7.5% instead of the initially proposed 15%. Therefore, across-the-board reductions in tariffs and duty rates will not accompany the tax's implementation. By not exempting breadbasket items, the Christie administration is also heeding the advice of experts who believe that a VAT regime with few exemptions is crucial to its successful implementation, especially when the tax exists at a low rate like 7.5%.
And that's all from the Tribune's Top 5 this week. But before we go, we'd like to say good luck to Ariana Vanderpool-Wallace, who's hoping to win the Bahamas' first ever medal at the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow. Want to join the discussion? Well, here's how you can. Just log on to our website at www.tribune242.com, like us on Facebook, the Tribune News Network, or send us a tweet at Tribune242.